like it's flashing.
Okay.
It's on.
Yep. Right. And this one's, Avery told me this one is directional, so it's pointed this way. So you can't move. This is it. This is what you have for a camera. Okay. What?
This is being recorded.
Yes, I just pressed record. So
Okay.
for all posterity, you're being recorded now.
I'd like to call the August 25th meeting of the School Committee to order, please. And could you please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to ask that anybody that's with us virtually, if you will mute yourself, if you're not speaking, that will help. Do we have anybody with us?
We do. We have 3 people.
Oh, good. Welcome.
Mandy Dearborn. Oh, sorry. I counted as one person. And Clyde. So 2 people.
Under agenda adjustments, Houston, I think you brought this up, that we have to talk about the elimination of the library and
Right. I believe Mark was going to discuss that with personnel.
Oh, okay, so I don't have to put it under action items, or? We just covered it.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you get the motions, accept the motion?
The motions from the lawyer. I don't know that he emailed you back with.
I thought we were supposed to do something from the lawyer. Yeah. So that we said it correctly.
Yep.
So we'll say it to the best of our ability, and hopefully
Right.
not be back in. All right. Have you all had a chance to read the minutes of the last meeting on the 11th? Any adjustments? No? I have one question. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. I don't have anything. But I have a motion then to accept the minutes of the last meeting. A second? All right. The minutes of the August 11th meeting. All those in favor? All right. No opposed? We're all set. So, presentation of before and after care. That's not going to happen tonight?
We've contacted and we have not heard back. So, but what I wanted to talk about presentation, there is been grant week, that's for sure. There's some more grant money coming around for that exact purpose. So I'm going to look it over and maybe see if there's any possibilities of us doing it ourselves. But right now, no. We're invited. I have not heard that called.
I don't know if this is the place to say it or not, but with this before and after school care, she has blatantly said that she does not want to have children wearing masks.
Correct.
And to me, that's, we're giving the kids a mixed message. Either we're wearing masks in this building all day long, or we're not wearing masks all day long. And although you said not that the state is being a little bit looser on before and after care requirements from the state, you know, it could be a good chance to get a daycare, the before and after care in. But I don't know how you rest of you do, but that's the way I feel. I know how you do.
I feel like we should be consistent.
Joe, Naomi has said that she does not want, she's not going to have the children wear masks to the before and after care if she is if she comes and gives a presentation, you know, she said she won't have the children wear masks. Okay, so that's
I understood that.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
And, so we just kind of, we'll see with that.
Okay, so we'll
Right
bring
now,
out,
it's dead.
okay, this is it.
Yeah.
And we'll bring it back next time.
Unless we have something.
But you said this grant coming up?
Yeah, I just found that out 3 days ago, and I've been working on the other. But there is some grant money, 25 million statewide, to fund modifications that we would need to open up the daycare. You know, so, I've been avoiding this, I don't want to be a daycare, I want to be a. But at some point, we still have the demand of, we still have a need for our parents in this community, right? So now it's time to look at other options, and that grant, it's not looking good, it has to be spent, like I said, for us. We'll see, I promise I will look at it again, and if we can put that on the minutes for next time, I will give you a report for the update of what we need to make that successful. Or sometimes you just say, no, we can't do it.
If we did, would those monies be able to be used to hire someone? No.
This is only for physical plant changes needed. For example, desk, equipment, PPEs. It's again, but see, if it matches the other grant so much that at some point you can only buy so many. I think we have 4 different sources of funding for PPEs, FEMA, which I'll talk about. But I need, honestly, I have not dug into it. And I need to dig into it, but I'm not digging into it with the other 3 grants that submitted and approved. So that's why by next month, I should be able to, see what the options
But I don't see how anybody here, there's no more time in the day.
It would be, let me look at it. And I'm not even saying it's possible.
Right.
But we do have the facility, we have the, do we want to go there? And if it's not a leader, if it's not an established organization, that's okay. And then maybe we could do a mini version on the rocket. I'm talking about studying.
Right.
That's a good.
All right. Would it be beneficial for us to be getting information
Send you the grant.
about, well, I was thinking, in Stevens Brook Elementary, that's a staff program, I have no idea what that consists of. How it works, who funds it, who funds it, I don't know. But it's information, yeah.
The other thing about that grant is it's really geared to keep people in school, right? Because they're experiencing some shock right now. And I don't know how to fund it. Yeah, that's interesting. If it comes to that, I think it's going to be established. If that's true, if enough money has to be spent in that 12 period, that would be fine. Mine, if there's one thing, mine concentrate on that. Take the other thing.
Should the law continue with the election with the ridiculous to be?
Well, one of the religions today that we used to have, I think, in our home, and I would recommend her if something should be interesting. And I've not heard back from her yet. So,
To do that, though, we have to open it up
oh, absolutely.
and then see what kind of.
I mean, people need to keep proposals. And I was under the impression we wanted it to be an outside.
What I wanted was to, take all the responsibility.
Exactly,
Right?
yes.
You pay me rent, which is the agreement. Pay us rent, not me. And then they pay us rent for the facility. And then it's an independent contractor. And then it doesn't affect our funding, except for that small. It would be a money maker, it would be a fill the gap we need, that people have told me about the whole 3 years. And that hasn't changed, it's just that we've adapted. And we do lose a couple of kids every year because of daycare issues with the parents working for them. daycare classes have gone nowhere but up. My granddaughter. 265 a week. Yeah.
I've reached out to Leslie Hayes, who's a Sebago rec director, and just to see, what her thoughts of.
Okay. Let's explore it.
Yep.
Put it on the next agenda.
You got your number.
That's it.
Houston,
Yes.
you're up.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to do this. All right. So to help maintain social distancing, the playground has been split up into 7 areas. Down. I am not running against this. I run. Your understanding of that drawing is appreciated. 2 pieces of equipment are designated for pre-K only, since those are the only ones they can use. The remaining 6 areas will be used by students in K through 5 on a daily basis, rotating. According to Dr. Blaisdell, the sun kills the coronavirus, so we don't have to worry about all of the wiping down, because that would be really hard. By rotating through the areas of the playground and limiting access to each area to 1 group per day, we should have those transmission of the disease to that. We still have 2 families that we have not heard back from, and another 2 kiddos that we think are enrolled. We've heard of them. The 1st and 4th grade, that's all we got. So, anybody in the audience knows who they are? The people again. That being said, as of this morning, we have 114 students. 23 are choosing to go remote, and that's 20% almost exactly of our population. And we are interviewing for remote learning teachers tomorrow. We are very excited to say that we are now working with the Westbrook Transportation Department to service, repair, and inspect all of our school vehicles. And speaking of transportation, Jay and I, well, mostly Jay, have been working on creating the bus routes for the buses. I've been feeding him information, and he has this huge spreadsheet going between the A and B days, which are different for different grades, different schools, for the first few days, and it has been a real nightmare. He's running out of colors for people. But Jay is on it, and as soon as it is available, we will upload it to the website so that parents have an idea. You can do this and drop it off. And that includes elementary, middle, and high school. Staff officially return on Monday. We have 4 very full days planned. We will have training on the new social emotional learning program, safety procedures, ADORE, which is our specialized software, and safety care group certification. There will also be a driver's meeting, time for staff to watch all the mandatory videos, staff pictures, meeting meetings. At the very end of June, we found out that we now have Title I school-wide authority. That means any of the funds that we receive from Title I can be used for any student need, not just students who have been specifically identified. It also changes the status of all students and teachers to being Title I students and teachers. I have updated the family handbook here. To reflect that change, and I've also updated the section regarding picking up and dropping off with students. That those are the only changes to the current family handbook, and if you guys are all set with those few changes, then I can upload that to the website as well. Finally, since we all love money, on a very happy note, we were awarded $15,380 as a part of the Rural School Grant. This money is very flexible. I'm smiling.
Wow, that's exciting.
It is exciting. That's something we've tried to get for 2 years, and now we can finally get it.
The first year, we had to have the streets, so we all met. And then the next year, just didn't happen. Just didn't have enough money. And then this year, we probably got it. Came out of the blue.
Yep.
So it's good money, what I call good money means no strings attached. So it's something that we could use for, different areas like that. That's good spending by August next year.
Could be a problem.
Teachers will have input as to whether they need this or that.
Potentially, it could be used to fulfill our needs for COVID, RTI. I mean, all kinds of things that we can use that money for. Yep.
The other thing I wanted to ask, because Michelle, the town manager,
Yep.
the playground equipment.
Yeah.
That one has been coming down and cleaning it,
Okay.
and she went into the students and we gave them that over in school study.
So my understanding from Dr. Blaisdell is that the sun kills the coronavirus. And that's the way I understand it. So I don't think we need to do that because we are limiting the students. We're keeping them in their cohort in one of those areas every day. So there aren't going to be second and third graders playing on the castle. It will be, yeah, the very next day, 24 hours later, sun's killed it all, new group of kids.
So I'll tell Michelle that I can start doing that.
Yep.
Thank you. I did just brought to my attention that I skipped the part, which before March business report is on public comments on the agenda. Any public?
I did, but I would like to give the personnel report first. I was going to comment on Mark's personnel update,
Okay,
so I'd like to hear what he has to say first before I,
when do I do that?
well, I can make my comments now, if that's okay. I'm concerned with the suspension of the instrumental music and library programs, as our children will be missing some opportunities for growth. Being an amateur musician myself, not having had, if I had missed a year of music, I don't know how it would really affect. Our kids are going to have a lack of opportunity for learning how to play an instrument, and when they join their peers at the middle school, they're going to be behind. I'm also concerned with the library. I don't think that teachers are going to sign out books. I think that may happen at the beginning of the year, but I can see as the year goes on, people are just going to go to the library and grab whatever they need. Things won't be signed out. I'm concerned when they're returned, those books will need to be quarantined. Who's going to keep track of the books that are returned, how long they have to be quarantined before they can be shelved, and who's going to be shelving them. So those are a couple of, things that I'm concerned with the library and just how it's going to look at the end of the year. I think that we are losing 2 highly qualified women, and I've also kind of proposed, and Mark and I have discussed this, as we've had some students in the remote learning last year who did not participate, and that they may need some additional help to get caught up, and I propose that perhaps those 2 women be given first choice to help 1 day a week or 2 days a week, whatever they needed to help get those students caught up where they are. I mean, the librarian taught for these 40 years, and Jenny, music has been 40 years anyway, and I know she had concerns on how to instruct a student. I'm sure she'd be more than willing to ask the classroom teacher, what they would need to, what, instructional method they would need. So there's just a couple of things I had on the suspension of those 2 programs.
All right, can we discuss those in the discussion items, okay?
About the instruments. I understand the building and instruments that you have to have, but what about something like I know with protection. Yeah, I know with the instrument. I'm missing a band rehearsal myself tonight to 10. They do have, and I forgot the name of the company. I do have the literature at home in my band bag. They do have coverings for bells, and I know there's a concern with woodwinds when you're playing that there will be things come through the keys. But I know that a small trash bag put in at the barrel of like the clarinet would cover and keep anything that would come out of the keys inside of the bag. And they have these bell covers
jazz instruments and woodwinds as well. Flute, I'm not quite so sure. They might have a time one for the end. The flute, the flute's probably the most dangerous as it's,
It doesn't grip until you do this.
Yeah. Well, yes, most beginners do. They like,
All right.
but they do have some bells, and I know covers with bells. So.
Right. Recommendations on some of these instruments. They have ideas of the bells like the line of figures with the number 13 figures on that one. They want a mask. And then for the players, they actually wear a mask with a slit in the mask.
There's a lot of things that happen since we started first talking.
Yes, I've seen the mask that has, the man who showed was the director's a trumpet player. The split of the mouthpiece goes right into the split, and a woodwind player could do the same thing. The mouthpiece goes right through the split without any spring.
Let's do that. Not that I want to shut you off. We'll put it on the back end discussion, okay? And then let's put it in. All right. This one, Jen.
Since that was brought up, let's address that.
Oh, all right.
So here's the thinking on this. You know, I know things are coming up, but there was a lot of talk about we're gonna have trouble putting together the full meeting. And I thought we suspend it for 1 year, which is what my proposal is. And when you suspend it for 1 year, we've got a position within the budget. That position is no longer. So if you go to library, that's a position that's in the budget. And there's great concern about how you're gonna get it around, and moving books from room to room. And we thought about 1 or 2 days. So if we go ahead, my thinking is that we go ahead and suspend the music program for 1 year. I should say that, it's not suspending the music program. Because we still have, what's the other class called?
Classroom music.
It's just music.
Right, no, this is instrumental lessons,
This
suspending.
is just instrumental.
Yeah.
The music program is staying 1 day a week, which is what it was always before.
Mhm.
So we're still gonna have a music program. We have the opportunity to do drawing and people. Just suspending the instrumental program. Because to help us with the moving around, we wanted to have, one of the things we thought of was have 80-minute art periods. Because, you know, by the time it's like for any special, by the time you get the kids set up and settled in, there was issues, especially with art, and grabbing all the art supplies and moving them around. Especially this year, because the kids have to have their own art. So the discussion went 2 reasons. I'll give you the money reasons first. If we cut these 3 days, 2 positions, 3 days, they're coming out of our budget. Then we can explore when we get the grant money, when everything goes well, about re-establishing some help, like she said, RTI time. Right? We have a couple of resources, that's part of it, but we'll see what, if that position could be accepted. Have another thought? Well, going art 80 minutes and going art 2 days. So basically, we're taking instrumental, which is not for all the kids, right, Jim? It's
No,
just
this is a
certain-
small handful.
Oh, the other thing is, with Jen's contract, we're allowed to, you know, this is just rough numbers. But we're gonna pay her for a 90-day transition period. So when we did the math, it comes up to 15 days. And then, I haven't talked to Jim yet, but part of that is, how can we take those 15 days, call it 7 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and then spread those lessons out as long as we can. And then that'll cover us till about Christmas. Very light, I know it's light, but it's still there. And then when Christmas comes, let's see where we are with COVID and then we'll have some updates. By cutting those positions, that opens up money in our budget. And then we could replace that with different title jobs that we could pay our children. That's the reason.
Jen is still the staff.
No, Jen would not be on staff which is an option in the future. We got one position, it's called instrument music, which is playing that program. That money was budgeted. I can't use COVID money because it was already budgeted. So by doing that, we got a 1-year suspension of the program. Now that suspension is gone. If we hire Jen back, then if we hire for the same thing, we can't pay for it. Right. But we could hire it back for a different. Let me give you another example. It's all in the same world. We had a non-special ed,
School counselor.
no, school counselor. We had a guidance counselor. It's coded on the books as a guidance counselor. Then this had nothing to do with it. Teresa left. So that job was posted. If we replace it with a guidance counselor, we can't use COVID funds. If we replace it with a social worker, then we can use COVID funds to play with it. That creates an opportunity for us to get some money back from the hole we are in as far as overall finance. It sounds like a little shell game, and it is a shell game, but if I pay for it out of COVID money, it's not coming out of local. If I save those positions, then that gives us more budget flexibility to go back and rehire. And when we hire the people, it's a different job, so we're gonna have to post it, and then find out who applies and hire the best person that's gonna serve that. Both excellent employees are not thrilled, but this was an opportunity for us to do a little bit of a shell game. And I'll be honest, when we made these decisions, making a while back, there was, I'm not sure about the mask at the end of the trombone. And we got to look at how many kids were involved in the instrumental program. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like four or five kids. Oh, remote, yes. Well, you and I just talked and we discussed 4 kids.
Yeah, that's the other thing. If the kids choose to remote, we're not going to have the opportunity to do those useful ideas. Libraries, tough decision. We come to thought about it. But the best thing to do is go ahead and cut the position and then see how it goes and then reintroduce it as we. And we do have a chance for 15 days. It helps us a little bit with the transition to get those people a little instrumental. Then who knows? Because all this grant stuff ends December 30th. But then December 30th, if we're pretty strong on that budget, then we can see about contracting for another $100 or so. So that's my thinking. The library part of it was the kids aren't going to be. Yeah, but the whole thing was take kids to the library. We are taking them on, so I am going back on my thought on that. But we're taking them on because we thought about it, carrying all that stuff to every class. Plus, by going 80 days, we're still limiting the travel, we're cutting it in half because they don't have 80 minutes once a week.
Once a week.
So every class gets 80 minutes once a week, she has 2 days to do that. And there's 100% of our kids are involved in that. So I thought for the money, and for a 1-year suspension, then we can talk about what we want. But, music is left brain stuff. We don't have a lot of left brain. Like, library is just a numbers game. And the opportunity, we need, hold people accountable. If we do that, we have the library directly across the street, which is another resource for us that is staffed. So we can take advantage of that. It was just an opportunity. Okay, where can we go here and save some money and transfer resources to address the issue?
And Ann did offer to come in and train staff on how to use Alexandria, which is the check-in, check-out book system, which
I have
is very easy.
believe in my heart that both of those people will come back. I'm not promising, but we already talked to Ian. She's willing to come back.
As far as grant the volunteers and staff across the street, which is good resource for that, because they've been doing this for months now. So they would be, the on staff.
Is that like the groceries, you leave them all for you?
They leave them alone for 24 hours, don't they?
20, I thought it was 3 days.
They do this exactly, because they have them all cleared out on the sheet. And then I thought, because there was a book I liked.
So here we go, yeah.
So my question is like, who's going to reshelve them, who's gonna keep track of, you know, how long they sat before they can be reshelved, who's gonna reshelve them appropriately, where people belong. And, you know, it's just how, you know, are people gonna actually take the books back to the library? You know, it's just, you know, just keeping track of them and making sure the library doesn't look like, you know, it's been ransacked by the end of the year.
That's something you can handle on a monthly basis. You can handle it. Dan, by the way, is also spoken to and
Certification.
certification. So, you know.
Can we take the library thing? Take it into consideration? I just wonder how adequate is the development manager to compare to our library?
Stuff like that. Because we have a lot of books, you know, in our class. And then list all of them. It's not like those books are all set up. They're still going to be there. It's just that I don't know how it's going to happen. But the kids are going to have to, teachers are going to have to be involved. Like, you know, face it, last year when COVID was there, we were like handing out books like candy, correct?
Mhm.
And I'm going to be real curious to see what percentage, we have, you know, when Nancy comes back and takes care of it. And so, but, you know, when you have times like this, you've got to listen up a little bit. And last year was the time to listen up to it, and what the kids. It's just like the laptops, you know, the laptops, we went from no laptop to every laptop rating. So far, it hasn't been awful as far as the damage. It's been 4 or 5 hard damage. I'll go back to my list. Notifying school committee of a positive COVID case in the school. Whether it is a student or staff member within 24 hours of the notification being sent to parents, physician, or staff member. I totally agree with that, and that's something we will put in, and you can hold us accountable. If there's a case, we are guaranteed that we are going to notify you about what the situation was, if there's a class that has to be shut down, if there's brothers and sisters involved, because people will be calling you guys. And if they call you, you've got to be able to. But I'm saying, let's get the parents taken care of first, school board that. Then we will guarantee we will do. Weekly update to school committee on how things are going with reopening. Last Friday, I had an email that was linked to you. I sent it today. Found it in my draft, right? But I'm going to try to do that. And that was I'm going to try to share it, review. To me, we got a 6-week experiment. A 6-week experiment starting next Monday, right? And we have the Monday, the Wednesday things to help us out. That'll give us a little extra time. I'm as anxious as anybody to see how this is going to go.
Well, Mandy's still on, so I'm assuming she can hear us.
So, you know, I'm going to be out. Sometimes I get busy. Kathy promised she would make me send it every week, right? And that's what you need sometimes. Because what I do with your email is as I think of something, I put it in, right? And then at the end of the week, my practice always gets sent on Friday afternoon. So all the school board members knew they were going to get something from me. And this time, it's just like I don't work Friday sometimes, and then there's nothing like that. I'm going to try to do this is something we talked about with communication. But this is something we need to do more of, I need to do. But these first 6 weeks have been good. So that, you know, it's not easy, but it certainly can be fixed. Yes?
Well, we have it, like, order a certain day, like Friday or something, that we can know, because sometimes I don't expect my interview. Until I know, oh, my, December's gonna be.
Try to do it on Thursday, all right? That is the best way. You know what I mean? Send an email, and I will try my best. Because it's gonna be interesting. I know it's gonna be interesting. I'm more worried about business learning than I am almost about what's happening in the morning. But that's something we're working hard on. Okay, update on the COVID grant. When we say COVID grant, right now, there's 3 grants. Excuse me. Well, there's 4 grants noticed, right? One is FEMA. We don't know what that is, but we can only write off stuff that we spent from March 1st through roughly June 1st of last year. So now we gotta go back to all this invoices. Anything we spent on cleaning supplies, PPE, and the guy, I talked to him on the phone, he's doing his worthless. We'll be extremely lucky to get 5,000. That is probably gonna be well done. Then you have this thing called this ESSER grant. Everybody's calling it ESSER grant. It's part of the CARES Act. For us, that was one that was about 19,400, 19,400. The great part about that one is it doesn't have to be spent till 2021. So that grant is on the back table, don't touch it, before we run out of money from the other. The other grant is 160,000, and that is the CRF, I'm sure, Care Relief Fund. COVID Relief Fund, that's what it is. So on that, and we're almost done, details are unbelievable. But we've got $30,000 of those costs that we incurred above the FEMA grant for other things. That's gonna be, you know, going backwards, about $32,000. That helps us, because every penny we post the last fiscal year gives us more carryover. A carryover was 25, we had 35 to it, we're at 60. You know, we just found some money, and it's not supplanting, because it wasn't budgeted last year. Now we got a $35,000 school bus. We need a school bus to have flexibility in delivering kids. Everybody in the state is using their money for school buses. I believe that 61 got 3 of them. I know that we got 7. So if you're in a school bus business, you're in that. We bought a used bus. It's 48,000 miles approximately. It's 3 years old, and Brett checked it out, and it's coming off lease. We picked the best one of the litter, and there might have been 30 of them. So we have that. That's a good use of funds. Why is that an extra good use of funds? Because we would need a bus anyway, in a way. But now we need it now. So we have something to help us now in the future. So now that brings us to 65,000. And then we have to have this distance learning teacher. The distance learning teacher is going to be, right now, have you given the numbers yet?
That it's 80% of our kids?
80%, yeah. So right now, this one person is going to have 20% of our kids, right? And so we need to hire a distance learning kid person to do that. If, perfect world, everything on COVID dials down and more people want to come back in full time, that teacher doesn't have to be a distance learner. If we get it down to 8 kids, she can come in, and that's why I'm hesitating on buying any extra help, because you need the full-time teacher. But if it gets better in a hurry and people come back, then we can use her, take forward COVID funds to address RTI issues. So that's another 50, and I'm just very round on these numbers, right? And that brings us to 115. There is some extra help, you know that, wellness program, mental health program? We were gonna pay for that out of ESSER funds, but there's no sense, let's pay for it out of COVID funds. And then we need some support, we need some teaching, we need some equipment, that's roughly 10 grand between staffing and the program itself is 34. I brought more details. Instead of going and talking so much. Okay. Avery's salary for March. Additional time to Sarah. Sarah had extra hours dealing with all this COVID change. We have Kate, our new special ed director, is also part of her salary area, was RTI work. So 75% of her salary for the RTI work. Stipend for Jay, $1,500, he's going way above and beyond. If he keeps going, that might go up. And, you know, printer paper. Remember during last year, we were printing reams of teachers now. Reams and reams of handouts we were sending home to parents. We're gonna get reimbursed for that. All the lawyer invoices for March 15th, we talked about nothing else. So all the lawyer from March 15th to the present. Food service purchases, most of that was already covered, which I'll get to in a minute. But there's about $1,000 there. We're getting the touchless water bottle filling stations. By the time we got a great deal, we got enough here, we got to install very expensive. But that's going to be around 26, roughly. No, 2,600, right? And school bus and social worker. Now that it's not called the guidance counselor, we can pay the social worker for 2 or 3 days, and we can pay Brenda's extra art day.
The isolation room.
Oh, I knew I was forgetting something. It's not on here because this came up after I did the first draft. If you have a chance to go into the teacher's room, Steve, we hired Steve to do it. So now we have this isolation room, which I don't know what it's all about, a couple of $1,000 anyway. And washer dryer, which we've always wanted, but we could definitely justify with the COVID grant. You know, the PPEs. We were blessed with a huge free shipment of PPE, but we need odds and ends. Like today, face shields came up. There's always going to be odds and ends. And all our cleaning supplies. Overtime for cleaning, because we're going to have some extra help and cleaning, so we're going to put extra hours to Steve. You can see how 160 goes real fast. So then we take the 160, we do the CARES Act grant, what I just said. Anything that's left over goes to the ESSER grant, which is going to be spent after January 1st, right? And then the other grant was, you know, the after-school one, which like I said, we're going to try. You can see why it's going on. We need to get these right. Sue Kirsten's been unbelievable. We paid her for extra hours, but she's definitely put in way more hours. There's an extra few days for me and an extra 10% days for Kirsten. That's in the grant. And that's about it. And I'm hearing rumors another round too. But that's where we are with the COVID. Oh, well, Sue, at Mark Roy's office, Susan Puddle, you guys haven't met her, but she needs to come in front of you guys at one time to see how we talk about it. And but she's been really, really helpful because it's hard. It's one thing to write a grant going forward. It's really hard when you go back to March. And it's a serious advantage to our school to get those out of our regular and pay for with money that's available. Water filling stations, the problem with that is they're not going to be able to get.
I just want to see,
We have one applicant.
oh, we haven't hired anybody.
No. We have one applicant, we'll have for you next time. And we have one person that's told me they're applying, so we have 1.5 applicants. Fair enough. The distance learning piece is going to be so good. because we want to support all of it. And we're exploring, you know, it's gonna be hard, we need to find the right person. And if you read, I hope everybody that signed up for distance learning really read what the parameters, right? We're gonna need help from parents to get ready, because the teacher's not gonna be doing lessons. She'll be talking to people, she'll be encouraging, she'll be implementing a distance learning system that's supposed to everybody. It's unconscionable that it's not ready. I called, she wrote an email last week, please, could we have a couple of modules out of the 400 you claim you have, right? No, you go to the website, you click on it, and it's not coming out until September 8th. If we start school, we don't need it that day. As a matter of fact, the distance learning may start a little bit later, like the 14th, like all the 16th. The thing I want to say though, you know, we made it sound like we're all alone in the world going back. I heard this week from MSMA, almost half the schools in the state are going back. And the predominance, that half of the elementary schools are going back. Now, that was anecdotal, but I trust the guys going. But I did call my buddies in West County. They've been in school for 2 weeks. You know, they started August 12th. So they got 2 weeks in, and I lived it for 30 years, so I know. And so far, knock on wood, you know, very few of them are going 2-2-1 because, you know, they got kid hours for 3 weeks. You know, so anyways, there's no, like I said, is there any bombs? Is there any bombs waiting for them? They're all doing masks. They said it is an issue, but it's not as bad as you think. That's exactly the word I was told by 2 different superintendents. So we're hoping it's going to be okay. Personnel update, I covered that earlier. Nutrition expenses. Well, there's a little, Barb did a great job. Tammy did a great job.
Morgan.
Esther was part of that at the beginning. Morgan did a fantastic job. You know, she was the real leader, and they really picked up. But the good part, I just got this today, which is why I didn't get it to you before. That's the papers that came in that I put at the end. I gave you just a few minutes ago. So what last year we had budgeted $50,000 to support food service. But since March, we did all those meals. We got reimbursed for all those meals. And so we took a negative and it turned into a positive $17,232. That's supposed to be green. It is a positive. So we have 17,000 going into next year. And next year, one of the things we spent a good time on today was getting food to the distance learners if they want. And we're finding out if that's legal. If it's legal, we're right now, maybe it's a little premature, but I'll tell you what we're thinking. Is like prepare 5 days of meals, if that's legal, then find out. And then have the parents come in and get it on Monday. So they have 5 breakfasts, or 4 breakfasts, and 5 lunches. So and then if they're free and reduced, it's free and reduced. And if it's full pay, then they have a choice. I think it's, I can't remember,
It's $18.
Yeah, it was
even.
1862 or something. But you know, you give us 1862, we give you those lunch. So we're going to try to include them in that. Why? Because we're so small, we need numbers to cover our fixed costs. We need X number of hours sitting in that office, whether we're serving 50 kids or 500, 200 kids, you can do it with the same staff. You see what I mean? So we need to cover our fixed costs in any way we can. We want to include the distance learning, especially it's a no-brainer to me for get free and reduced lunch. Remember, there's no more reduced. The old words were free and reduced. Free and reduced are all free now. There's no more reduced lunch. If you qualify, it's free or it's not free. So anyways, we're going to do our best with that. We got a little bit of a nest egg. I think I already told you about we got the new stove. I just realized today the stove includes installation, right? And I knew I was forgetting something on the grants. There's another grant called a Fresh Start Grant that's helping schools come back. and that's 500 to 5,000. And we are applying for a milk cooler and a replacement of our refrigerator that's really, really good. So, and Barb's doing that, thank you, Barb, she's applying for that. If she doesn't get it, we still need the refrigerator, then we'll use some of the ESSER funds, the ones that become worthwhile, is that a word? Become available to us after January 1st, then we'll use the ESSER grant probably, and we can get one for around 4. But if she gets the grant, then we don't have to use the code.
When you say refrigerator, is that the kitchen?
No, that's the big
The
one.
big double one, it's about that size.
Yeah, we replaced the seals, it's just really, really inefficient. Even Esther says it.
Okay, that's what's in the
Yeah.
When did you get that?
It hasn't been installed yet, it's on its way.
But I gotta give all the credit to Barb on that. Remember I said I never want to spend money because it's always that money that comes around that she's with. Oh my God, it came around. She applied for it, she got it.
So we got it for free.
Absolutely.
And it's a new one.
And installed.
And wow.
Getting it through the door is a matter we haven't. No, I'm serious. This could be,
That could be a
that
problem.
could be a problem, but let's put it this way, the installation of the stove, gas and all that is paid for by. We just found out we may have some issues, but there's no sense we have to do some, whatever we need to
It's in a rotation.
Yeah.
Well, how much could it cost?
Hey, considering that we got $5,600 for a brand new stove and installation, it cost $1,000. It's that cheap. Has anybody noticed how old our stove was?
I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, you've got to see this. Sometimes when you're in, no, it would be in a museum. You know, I'm not even kidding.
It was on the Mayflower.
So that's the other grant I forgot about before. Boy, there's a lot going on, guys. We gotta hire some people, right? And, personnel update we already did. Now I'm just debating, and our lawyer did not get back to me. And I'm just thinking about it right now. He was gonna give us the language, so. I guess we're gonna have to vote. And if it's just an emergency, I'll have to call you before. I'll find out. We've got the personnel, and we've got Jenny, Ann, and have we accepted, the resignation for the social worker yet? No.
Teresa?
That's-
School counselor.
See, that's what, we have had people leave, you guys have never voted on it. This is involuntary, and that's why I asked them to get back to me. I didn't follow up, I got busy today, that's what it is. So if we need something, I will get back.
We can call it an emergency session.
If we have to, it's just have 24-hour notice, we gotta make it public. But it can be, if you call it a special meeting, you only have one thing, you come in and vote on one thing. Then you can do it within 24 hours. Okay. This one, I already told you, I'm worried about this one, right? But we're trying, we're working our best, we gotta get the right teacher in and figure out how it goes. But right now, we have 20% of our kids, we have 107 kids wiped out. So 21, 22 kids distance learning. One changed their mind today, so that number's never going to be down. But we'll see. I'm very, very curious.
I went on the DOE website and looked up the news learning.
Yeah.
And it gave, I thought it was so vague, I should have brought it in.
We know a couple people on it, right? Apparently it's high quality work, right? But it's still gonna be like flipped classroom based, like you watch a video for learning. And they do a Khan Academy for referral, so they're bringing it all together. They've had all year to work on it. They hired 400 different people and they're still gonna add to it all. I'm praying that distance learning goes through the whole year.
They get started on it, I mean,
It's good, if it's good, but it's. What's the holdup? You remember I don't know, but remember at the end of distance learning, I'll be honest with you, everybody was sick of it. And I'm talking about the parents. Remember we had the discussion about putting too much pressure on parents? And then we dialed it back and took the pressure back. But I don't think I'm lying when I'm saying the teachers fought through the end, right? And they did a good job in this district. I'm very proud of them, right? But, you know, the parents are the ones that had the fatigue. And those of you that have kids understand that. When you're doing the distance learning, and the child's here all day, and they're not getting their usual social output, you know, and all that stuff, I'm worried about the progress that's going to be made. And we have to test those kids. I'm not even sure how we're doing that yet, but bring them in for an afternoon. I don't care what to do in the fall. We're going to need data because we need to know where everybody is, not just the kids. And, you know, socially, I think there's opportunities to.
I think the teacher, I think all this concern is gonna say something on that. I lost it, I'm sorry.
It's all right, I believe we have the mask we need to start. The isolation room is this close to being done.
Pretty much done.
Yeah, it's just a matter now of training. One thing to talk about it. You know, we're working on the tents. Did you mention that already?
Oh, no, I did. I forgot to
Okay,
mention the tents.
We're working on the tents. We have that one beautiful outside learning structure. It's gonna be great if it's not blowing sideways and it's not snowing. So that buys us a little time. That helps with the mask adjustment because you can be 6 feet away.
Mhm.
If you're actively playing,
How many rolls?
I think that's right.
What, 14 feet?
It's 14, I was thinking, if you're outside,
Running.
but if you're actively playing, you've got to be 14 feet out of that. Or something.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
I mean,
But right now,
yeah.
it's going to be 6 feet without a mask. And, like I'm thinking sports, right? Because you're not going to wear a mask playing football. I don't know how they're going to do football. Football is a money generator, so we'll see how that decision goes.
Now, is Lake Region still doing the 221, are they still doing the sports program, their intramural game stuff?
I asked you this an hour ago.
Yeah, and when I talked to Andy Madura about transportation and are they having a late bus, and he said, which is, I don't know, you know, because things have not been decided. The MPA hasn't come, because it's ultimately going to be up to the MPA to say whether or not they can play. And if they authorize it, then it's up to the district whether or not they want to do it. And the date keeps getting pushed out by the MPA of when they can start practicing.
You asked, so there's 2 proposals. One of them is to have all the sports starting January 1st. And then you have 10 weeks of basketball, 10 weeks of football, 10 weeks of spring. That's one of the proposals that I heard was getting serious consideration. And the other one is, but the ironic part is NPA is making a decision on September 9th, right? And I was talking to my Aroostook County friends, I hate to keep mentioning that. You know, their season's half over in September 9th, because they start playing as well. So they're really upset because they didn't have the guidance, but they are not running sports. It's going to be a tough year for sports. It's going to be real tough.
Okay, I don't know where it is in the agenda, but you were going to bring up my idea of going into research for testing.
Research for testing.
Remember that?
Yep, I do. And I didn't put it on here. We have an opportunity to be a test site through Harvard University that involves testing of children with a spit test that's non-intrusive. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And we have talked about this a lot. You know, Chris came in and made the proposal. I said I'd bring it to you guys, but Kirsten and I have been talking, and I have some concerns, right? And I didn't express this to Chris because I've just been having time to process. I can honestly go either way, but if you do that, you know, number one, you're never gonna do this in 1,000 years without parent permission, right? And where does it start? You know, if we're gonna be started here, is it gonna start for, you know, testing? You know, the next thing that comes around, rubella or whatever, you know, I don't know. I don't like the idea of bringing it into class and having us in the role of testing children. Okay.
Well, what does it mean exactly? Be specific, is it every single day, or what? What is
No,
it?
it is, in research, they would like to, like in colleges, how they now do, it's the surveillance. Not that you actually have it, but the idea of having an elementary school, especially California has this model, and we would be a control. We would be the 5 days a week, the typical old-fashioned school. They're trying to figure out which things what precautions we're doing is working. It's the mask, it's the distancing, it's the hybrid, it's the online. But to have a typical old 5 days a week in California, that doesn't exist. So therefore, they're looking for a control that would be what a normal school would look like. But we do have the mask, we do have this, but our schedule is more of the class.
So do that's because once a
So
week.
I didn't want
Nowhere-
to apply
nowhere
for
near.
the nasal, but Yale has the new spit test, they call it. It came out last week. And where you spit into the vial and they test you. And therefore, like the colleges, they had them all test at the beginning when they first came, and then they're going to test them every week. They're going to take a certain amount. They're not going to test everybody in the college. They'll take a grouping of them, and then there'll be another group. And I don't know what the model would be, like a month or a month. But for us, the one thing that, if you look at the CDC guidelines, we're doing the masks, we're doing the distancing. But the one thing nobody can afford, even the state of Maine right now, is the surveillance testing of schools. So I didn't know if we would be it would be an extra, again, layer, as they call them, for us to have our children check to see if there's 50% of kids are asymptomatic. So.
I don't know why you wouldn't. I can't imagine, it has nothing to do with rubella, it's all about COVID. And
It's just,
supposed to be a-
you know, we're starting. Listen, we've taken over every responsibility, right? And now this is another one. Now we're gonna be the ones to do the COVID test.
But why not?
You know, Wendy, it's okay. Because I think there's three choices. I promised Chris I'd bring it up. I honestly did not bring it up. It just skipped my mind. One, we don't want to do it. We're done. Two, go ahead and apply. And then we can bring it back when we know, like, I don't know how many days. Are they testing once? Are they testing every day?
I didn't send any, I didn't email anybody. All I
So,
I
do
just
we
didn't
wish-
know if I could send an
The
email.
question is right now, do we wish to apply for the summer?
Can we vote on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have something to say about that. I really feel, because we're dealing with minors, you've got to have parents on board. I would say maybe send out an email or something to parents. Hey, this is an opportunity that we could do, but we need feedback from parents to see if you would want your child to participate. And see what kind of response we get back. then that kind of answers that right there.
Go ahead.
And by, of course you have to, right? But I can't imagine if parents would say no to a free test, to make sure that their child is COVID-free. To me, that's a gift. And it could be, and especially since we're going back to full time, then we could be a control group. I think that we'd be contributing to the whole research, for one thing, and contributing to the safety of our community, for another. For instance, a bunch of kids who go to a certain daycare, they don't come into school, and they all test positive, but they're all asymptomatic. We could avoid a real catastrophe that way. So, yeah, so certain parents might say no, but I bet you most parents would say yes. I certainly would. If you ask anything, kids fitting into a vial, what's the big deal?
The thing, see, like, I think we vote, take a vote, yes or no, we want to vote. But, and no one's committed, right? But now I'm scared that somebody's gonna call me and say, well, how many times did you test them? We don't know. When are we gonna test them? We don't know. We don't know anything. But if
No,
we
I haven't
apply,
even
we get
sent
accepted.
an email. All I did was listen to their modeling and what their research was missing and where they'd like to see the next step of their research go.
I like the idea.
And I was kind of just-
Yeah. And they're doing it at UMaine. I heard it today on the daily, the bi-weekly briefing. And they're doing it with the University of Maine, they're doing it with all the students coming in, and then 10% of the student population every week. That's what they're doing. And they're doing that because they want to catch it before anything happens, you know, and I think, I would be, certainly have to vote on it, but, if a parent really adamantly against it, that's their right. But if you had 95% of the kids from the research, they would think it could be valid.
I think I would feel more comfortable. We could take a vote on it, but I would want a heck of a lot more information, Chris.
Oh, yeah, they would,
What-
no,
how
I'm
many, how
not,
often, blah, blah, blah.
this is just to send, this is what we have, this is what, from what you say, would you be interested, do you need?
How about if we make a motion that we are interested in asking Chris to gather more information to present to the next school committee? Is that acceptable?
Doesn't have to be accepted. I am totally good with that.
Joe?
And what I think I'm hearing is that we would be fine for possibility of doing the testing.
We're not even applying,
We're not applying, we're just gathering the
I'm
information.
just
Joe.
getting permission to send,
I don't see any problem with gathering information, not making any questions.
So, could somebody make a motion?
Is there a time on this one?
I don't know,
Gathering
it was just that
information.
someone had mentioned.
A motion to gather information on the COVID test from Yale.
I thought it was.
I like the Yale one because Yale came out with the spit test last week.
Okay.
And I don't think people really want their kids to have the
No,
spot
that
down
would be
their
an
nose.
automatic. That's too invasive for them.
I mean,
Make sure it gets on.
Yeah, no, well.
all right,
So I need a motion and a second,
Yeah, I'll second it.
okay?
All those in favor?
You seconded, Wendy, who was the motion?
I mean,
No, Tina, okay. All right, it's on the agenda for next time.
Is there any questions on the overall? Thank you, Chris. We did not forget you on purpose. And, was there anything on any of the other stuff?
Kirsten, on the emergency contact, when the dismissal of Lake Regions for the bomb threat,
Right. So,
there was misinformation spread around town.
right. So when that happened, and there was a bomb threat back up at the high school last year, the high school notified us. Shelley took the phone call. She immediately called our bus drivers and they were en route to go get our students, and Lake Region High School called us back and said, don't bother sending up your drivers. We've got your kids covered. We'll bring them home for you. So that was the communication that happened. So this is an instance where we're paying tuition to Lake Region High School and Middle School to educate our students, and most of the communication, a vast majority of the communication with our families comes from them, except for usual transportation issues, which I discussed earlier. As soon as I get the bus routes ready and finished, I'll get them uploaded. And by me getting them ready, I mean Jay. When Jay says they're good to go, I will upload them to the website.
But this was a good example of, we worked through some stuff. That somebody was questioning, they were like, yeah, I'll check into it.
Yep.
And called me, I spoke with you, so we got the information, we're on the road for communication. Donnell has been thinking, and when Donnell thinks we're all in trouble, which, and including her, but we have fallen short on regularly attending the 61 school committee meetings. So we are gonna have to get started on that. Let's aim for October, give us September to get our own ducks in a row. Okay. They've been uploaded. Okay, so maybe we don't have to drive up there, we can watch them virtually. All right, so we'll start in October, is that all right? Anybody? Joe, is that okay if we start in October?
Take turns, have their
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Yeah, we started to, and then, I don't know what happened.
COVID hit. We did it at
Okay.
we were doing okay on that.
And the other thing was that, is there some way, and Donnell and I were talking, and I think part of this is going to fall on the parents to be able to somehow communicate together so that we can communicate with them. To give the middle school and the high school kids information for the bus schedule. They've already been sent the bus schedule, correct, Kristen, for 2021?
It has not been finalized. Nobody has
But I
it
mean,
yet. But
those
it's-
kids will be, those families will be notified.
Yes, I will send out a blast for everybody that I know of that is our current Sebago students attending grades 6 through 12. I have a spreadsheet for them. Avery's uploaded them to our all-call system. And I can specifically select middle school, high school, and notify them when the bus loads out.
Do you have a second way of notifying them? Because especially now after COVID,
Yep,
we have a lot of families in town who may be struggling financially.
mhm.
And I know in my household, the first thing that's gonna go is the internet. To live without it.
Right, so they get a phone call and text.
Okay,
It's the same system that does both phone call and text.
okay, because
Phone call and text, or phone call and email.
Phone call and text. I actually do not have the email addresses for our 6 through 12
You
families.
do have all the phone numbers.
I have the phone numbers that have been given to me by SAD 61 because SAD 61 houses all of their contact
Right.
information.
yeah, I just think we need to do something
Oh,
to
go
make
ahead.
them feel included throughout the school year.
Mhm.
Because we put them on the back burner, and that was 3 years ago. Well, it's time to pull them to the front, and they are part of our responsibility as well, not in school per se.
Mhm.
We bus them, that's part of our responsibility, but in addition to that, they are part of our community. And I feel like we need to know who they are and be able to have contact. And I don't know, an example I came up with was our art show. I know they don't go to school here, but it's a small community. Why can't we extend an invitation? We're going to be having our annual art show. Do any of your kiddos have any pieces they would like to show as well? And have a special section for our 6 through 12 graders. It's simple, but it makes people feel good, and we need to keep that going because they feel very disconnected, right? These families.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, they're
There are all kinds of.
I can hear you, Janelle, I hear you, because they came from a very small school, one-on-one personality. And then they went to a much bigger school, which they are, there's also kids from, other schools. What's the other school sending besides Raymond? Besides the obvious ones, Raymond,
No, not Raymond.
not Raymond, Bridgeton.
Yeah, Bridgeton, Casco, Naples.
One has
So,
their own elementary school.
well, Naples and Songo Locks, Naples and Casco go to Songo Locks. Bridgeton has its own school, Stevensbrook.
So that's a great point. Except, my experience with this, when I was where people sent kids, is my God, I have enough calls, from the school. But I hear what you're saying, because we're still responsible. Well, we're paying taxes, and those people are paying taxes to us. We turn around and we send the money to 61. But it's kind of like a gray line, especially when you come from a very small, close net. And all of a sudden, the parents are kind of on their own, and they're part of a much bigger team. So, I mean,
And maybe the parents could form some kind of a parent group.
that would give us extra leverage if they had common complaints.
If, if, not now, we gotta get to school. Okay,
But no, that's a good point, though.
but you've got that all call for the middle and the high school.
Yes.
Like in October.
Mhm.
We have it in October. If we can put up and down and help, if y'all can help put it together, a message to the parents about some type, what are their ideas of trying to form a cohesive group that can work with us to make them feel more part of the community, but and let them feed us some information as to what they want, what they need, what they're feeling.
And also, in the past, I remember there were kids in my region that would come to mentor elementary school kids.
Yeah, my first couple of years here, we had them, and then they stopped. And every once in a while, they'd reach out and say, "Hey, we're going to send somebody down," and then they never showed up.
Right. So they're thinking something like, for instance, like art show or even music. You think even,
I didn't want to interrupt, but Donnell, to get back to your comment about the art show, when I organized the demonstrating people, I had 3 8th graders on that this past.
oh, nice.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's right.
You see, that's the kind of thing that they feel, the older kids feel like they're coming back to their school. And they're also, as an example, as a mentor to the younger kids. So if they see the artwork or they hear the music or whatever it is, that it's something that it kind of creates it finishes the circle. Because it's true, my kids went off to middle school and high school and there was no anything. I mean, I was like, that was it. I thought I could be part of something and I was basically not. So, it'd be nice if we could, it'd have to be cooperation of the parents and the kids.
That'd be interesting.
It
I
could
think
be
we
a nice
need to
thing
go
to
see
do.
what other people.
Yeah, and it's just something to work on.
I thought you.
Well, I was just gonna add, like with the art and the music, but even, the Bridgeton News publishes, kids with the honor roll. Why not quarterly or trimesterly, recognize those kids who played in sports or those kids who, with the vocational went off to some contest, or it doesn't have to, they don't have to be here, but just the recognition of these are our kids and they're involved in music, or they went on, to cooking school, contest, or, just recognize, because the Bridgeton News usually has those things right in the paper. You always have a local, there's a Sebago kid, there's a Sebago kid.
Right.
And just a recognition, each trimester, each quarter of something that kids grades through 6 to 12 have accomplished from the town.
Yeah, just something that.
It's a recognition.
Yeah, and that's basically, I think the parents just want to feel a part of this community right here, even though the kids don't go here anymore. And
If we reach out to them and ask them their input, what do they want, what do they need? how can we do it? That, down to you.
And also, we're investing in the future of our schools, because if we can keep those parents interested in Sebago Elementary School, we might have some future board members and things like that, because oftentimes the parents, they just leave Sebago and they leave too, mentally. And so I think that it would be an investment in our schools, in our community.
Okay, any more public comments on non-agenda items?
I have one item that I skipped a little. For the remote learning, last year we did have some laptop damage. It wasn't bad, but we looked into buying insurance for the school, and it's cost prohibitive because we didn't have enough. But almost every school we talked to, and I asked for samples. What we're proposing is remote learning agreement as part of that, and it was in our remote learning plan that had this in here. But paid $25 insurance fee to get the computer for the year. So basically, for $25, you're getting a computer, and you're getting the technical support through Avery. We thought that was pretty reasonable. If there's some financial things, we can talk about. Or we could agree to cover, you don't need to pay the $25, but if you take a computer, then you're covering the full cost of damages. Or I have my own technology, and I don't need another computer at home, because I have two. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
And $25 certainly isn't a couple.
I think it's pretty reasonable and it's pretty standard.
Yeah.
It shows that you have.
Human investment. All righty. Next school committee meeting is September 22nd. I will do September 2nd. And I would like a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn. Whoops. Sorry. For the next school committee meeting, it's going to be here. Is that correct?
Yep.
If somebody doesn't feel comfortable being participating in person, then they can participate by Zoom. Or
I think that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
She's talking about us.
Oh, us?
Yeah, if there's one of us that does not feel comfortable being in the school and being in person.
I don't see why not.
Is that possible to be part of that? Yeah.
We just have to make sure that I call on you to vote.
Right.
That whoever it is.
Right.
And I've been checking and nobody's put anything in the chat box, so.
Okay. So the motion's been made to adjourn. May I have a second? Okay, Joe seconded it. All those in favor? Good night, all.
Isn't that next meeting? By the time the next meeting comes, we'll be some kind of routine.